Hello and welcome. My name is Meatballis, they, he, she, and today we are looking at and talking about the memoir trilogy March by John Lewis, Andrew Aydin, and Nate Powell, published by Top Shelf Productions in 2013, 2015, and 2016. Another entry in trying to catch up on the Realm of Comics Reading Club. I had read the first book perhaps 2 times and the second one a single time, but I'm glad to have finally finished the entire trilogy and actually put pen to paper to write out this review. Looking at context clues, aka where this trilogy is shelved at my library and some of the awards it has won, March appears to be primarily aimed at the young adult audience. Unsurprisingly, considering the subject matter, content notes for N-word, racist violence, bombing, child death, guns, cross burning, and swearing. Well, it always feels a bit odd to profile the main creator behind a memoir comic. Let's do it anyway. Looking at Wikipedia for the first time today, quote, John Robert Lewis, February 21st, 1940 to July 17th, 2020, was an American politician and civil rights activist who served in the United States House of Representatives for Georgia's 5th Congressional District from 1987 until his death in 2020. He participated in the 1960 Nashville sit-ins. The Freedom Rides was the chairman of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, from 1963 to 1966, and was one of the Big Six leaders of groups who organized the 1963 March on Washington, fulfilling many key roles in the civil rights movement and its actions to end legalized racial segregation in the United States. In 1965, Lewis led the first of 3 Selma to Montgomery marches across the Edmund-Pettus Bridge, where, in an incident which became known as Bloody Sunday, state troopers and police attacked Lewis and the other marchers. End quote. Clicking through to co-writer Andrew Aydin's portfolio website, quote, creator and co-author of the graphic memoir series March and Run, which chronicles the life of Congressman and civil rights icon John Lewis, co-authored with Representative Lewis. March was the first comic work to ever win the National Book Award. Andrew is a Turkish-American who was raised by a single mother. Andrew served as special assistant to Connecticut Lieutenant Governor Kevin B. Sullivan and district aide to Representative John Larson before joining the staff of Representative John Lewis in 2007, where Andrew served in several capacities, including campaign communications director and digital director and policy advisor until his passing in 2020. End quote. And finally, if you want to learn more about artist Nate Powell, I'll be linking to my review of his graphic novel, Save It for Later, Promises, Parenthood, and the Urgency of Protest. Keywords that came to mind reading this trilogy: history, historical, race, Black Americans, politics, coming of age, speeches, segregation, war, media, and creating a future. The summary of Book 1 is, quote, March is a vivid first-hand account of John Lewis's lifelong struggle for civil and human rights, meditating in the modern age on the distance traveled since the days of Jim Crow and segregation. Rooted in Lewis's personal story, it also reflects on the highs and lows of the broader civil rights movement. Book 1 spans John Lewis's youth in rural Alabama, his life-changing meeting with Martin Luther King Jr., the birth of the Nashville Student Movement, and their battle to tear down segregation through nonviolent lunch counter sit-ins, building to a stunning climax on the steps of City Hall. Many years ago, John Lewis and other student activists drew inspiration from the 1950s comic book Martin Luther King and the Montgomery Story. Now his own comics bring those days to life for a new audience, testifying to a movement which echoes will be heard for generations. A very striking series, the vivid black and white art and expressive typography go a long way to doing justice to the subject matter. Visually, this series is A++. The writing is, unsurprisingly, also very good. The only issue that I think didn't even age that well as the books were being published is that juxtapositioning the start of the civil rights movement with Obama's inauguration feels like it was buying into the narrative that this sort of racial struggle was done with the election of Obama. Certainly not unique to this comic, which we unfortunately realized with the election of Donald Trump was certainly not the case. Not to mention Obama being the deporter-in-chief and doing all those drone strikes and a number of other problematizing things. It's certainly true that electing the country's first black president was only possible because of the different kinds of black resistance and revolution that happened across so-called United States up to that point point, but we still have a ways to go. Moving right along, not the most singularly focused memoir out there, we do take a fairly wide view of leadership across the civil rights movement, particularly as the series goes on. Gender was a bit one note, but assuming I'm recalling correctly, some of the gender diversity that was on the ground was reflected in this trilogy. We also get a small taste of sexual diversity when it comes to Bayard Rustin, who according to Wikipedia, quote, was an African-American leader in social movements for civil rights, socialism, nonviolence, and gay rights. Rustin worked with A. Philip Randolph on the March on Washington movement in 1941 to press for an end to racial discrimination in employment. Rustin later organized Freedom Rides and helped to organize the Southern Christian Leadership Conference to strengthen Martin Luther King Jr.'s leadership and teaching King about nonviolence. He later served as an organizer for the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. Rustin worked alongside Ella Baker, a co-director of the Crusade for Citizenship in 1954, and before the Montgomery bus boycott. He helped organize a group called In Friendship, amongst Baker, Stanley Levison of the American Jewish Congress, and some other labor leaders. In Friendship provided material and legal assistance to those being evicted from their tenant farms and households in Clarendon County, Yazoo, and other places. Rustin became the head of the AFL-CIO's A. Philip Randolph Institute, which promoted the integration of formerly all-white unions and promoted the unionization of African Americans. During the 1970s and 1980s, Rustin served on many humanitarian missions, such as aiding refugees from Vietnam and Cambodia. At the time of his death in 1987, he was on a humanitarian mission in Haiti. Rustin was a gay man, and due to criticism over his sexuality, he usually acted as an influential advisor behind the scenes to civil rights leaders. In the 1980s, he became a public advocate on behalf of gay causes, speaking at events as an activist and supporter of human rights. Later in life, while still devoted to securing workers' rights, Rustin joined other union leaders in aligning with ideological neoconservatism, and after his death, President Ronald Reagan praised him. On November 20, 2013, President Barack Obama posthumously awarded Rustin the Presidential Medal of Freedom. End quote. Race is pretty well focused on black struggle alongside white allyship and white violence. Class felt like it was explored somewhat above average. The rights of black workers was obviously pretty top of mind for many organizers. John Lewis's own life also faced class struggle and movement. I also appreciated that near the end of the trilogy, they do give a pretty good outline of how red baiting was used against the movement. Clicking over to Wikipedia once again, quote, red baiting, also known as reductio ad Stalinum, and red tagging, is an intention to discredit the validity of a political opponent and the opponent's logical arguments by accusing, denouncing, attacking, or persecuting the target individual or groups as anarchist, communist, Marxist, socialist, Stalinist, or fellow travelers towards these ideologies. In the phrase, red refers to the color that traditionally symbolized left-wing politics worldwide since the 19th century, while baiting refers to persecution, torment, or harassment. End quote. As with many activist memoirs, I did appreciate the inclusion of some of the times when Lewis's health was not doing so well. It's easy to present people as superhuman when they fight so tirelessly to make the world a better place, but it's important to realize that they are humans and, like the rest of us, are not fully able-bodied all of the time. Not to mention the kind of toll this kind of work can take on your body or the danger it can put you in. Bye all, keep reading and organize to end capitalist oppression. And as always, Literally Graphic is created on land that should be given back to the traditional landholders, which in this case is, to my knowledge, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, Anishinaabe people, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Huron-Wendat Nation.